In Colombia, there is a virtuous culture in the relations of the financial industry with the supervisor. It is a relationship based on respect, on complying with the rules, recognizing the autonomy the supervisor should have, but within the context of a dialogue based on transparency, on technical rigor, on the side of the industry and those who enjoy the benefit of being a collective or institutional spokesperson. I said this yesterday, but the superintendent was not able to be here because of the problems we've had with the strike. Superintendent, it's an honor to have you here. So now I give you the floor, and I'm sure it's going to be very important. Good afternoon, Mr. Jorge Humberto. Thank you for this opportunity to share in this International Convention on Insurance the approach of the financial superintendency in the area of the insurance industry. First and foremost, I would like to greet the audience, congressmen, and other authorities. A very simple first approach, a pragmatic one. What we are going to present as a superintendency is the mandatory messages on how do we see the industry and which should be our work plan in coming days, but also to try to move and to think not only about a one-year vision, but a longer-term vision. That's why in this opportunity, we have given the name towards a more competitive, reliable, sustainable, and inclusive insurance industry. These four characteristics are the challenges that we want to impose ourselves as supervisor, as regulators, and we have been working with the industry. And I share that with you, Mr. Botero. It has been a very productive alliance that helps us move forward in what we have. Obviously, we need to have clarity on where are we heading to. It is necessary to see what is it that we have as a vision. It is not easy to think on the side of the supervision to try to have like a daily balance and what in the future should be the vision of an industry. But it is not an easy task. However, we have wanted to combine these two elements because in addition to the daily supervision, in addition to coach the industry, we are also responsible for building a longer-term vision. That's why in this first slide, we have said the 2025 vision, and this is what we would like to have in a financial system where the insurance industry plays a very important role. And I want to dwell on this slide, which most likely is going to offer the different paths, the different work projections that we're going to have in the short term. It's not only to come here and make some announcements, but to see how these announcements are part of a long-term view, because that is what we need to build. This 2025 vision needs to have 4 pillars: competitive, reliable, inclusive, and sustainable. But for each one of them, it is necessary to establish one objective. If what we are doing builds, is reliable, is sustainable, and it's inclusive, most likely we are doing things right. If we have anchored our expectations or where do we want to go, we're going to have a better formed tools and criteria, and on why we give priority to something or why something doesn't fit in this definition. The first approach is to be a financial system that is competitive, and obviously this has some guidelines we have already listened to. This is nothing new, but actually which is our roadmap, an innovative insurance sector that has an added value supplied to the financial customer in an environment of fair cost. Here there are many messages. And obviously, the new technologies, they're here, and that's an important role of the supervisor to define its approach vis-a-vis these new technologies, vis-a-vis innovation. Because the environment in which we move is conditioned by what the regulator or the supervisor can consider adequate or not. Here, as is the case of InsurTech that we have covered in different scenarios. But I think that our message is that part of the competitiveness of the insurance sector has to do with earning many efficiencies, not only in product structuring, but in having better information, reducing asymmetries, and to reduce moral hazards that are part of this industry through innovation, through new technologies. From the perspective of the financial superintendency, there is room to create there. The superintendency established a fintech group to produce an environment of control that enables not only to listen to the proposals, analyze and understand what we want to develop to create more value in the chain with respect to the products you have, but also to make regulation and supervision, to make these technologies a reality so they reach a balance among competitiveness, reliability, sustainability, etc. Cost and expenses, they go around and around to the extent there is more access to data, to the extent that we have more capacity to compare things. Consumers are going to be more empowered. They're going to be able to make sound decisions, and the cost there is going to be decisive. This doesn't mean that this has become an industry where they cannot charge for that, but we are moving as an industry, and you say, okay, why am I paying this, or I should be paying this or not that? So there is a redefinition of many elements when it comes to competitiveness. From the perspective of the supervisor, we can start supporting this. We need to optimize processes, and in any organization, this is one of the main objectives. But we as an industry, from the perspective of processes, we can add more value in what we are doing. Mainly in the supply of innovative products and also digital insurance. So the idea is to create an environment of competitiveness framed within that balance of technology efficiencies, profitability, promotion and protection of consumers' trust. Also, a reliable system is related to the fact that it should be a simple one. Customers prefer a differentiated product. It's not what am I going to offer the market. Actually, it is what is the market asking for. This sounds disruptive from the standpoint of a product such as this, but we have to understand that where the industry is moving is a world in which people will have the ability to decide what do they want to insure and not to count only on a standard or unique product when acquiring the protection. And simplicity is going to be present in each one of these elements, not only in acquisition and coverage, but also in claims. It's not thinking about instant claims, because each product must understand how to satisfy the need, but thinking, how do I create value to the person that doesn't have a claim to be filed, and we have to think how to produce a benefit to this person on what it means not to use the insurance company. Cost transparency is there. simple procedures. That's part of this new reliability environment. Inclusive, yes, this industry has clarity about the opportunity we have to bring in more people to our system, being able to have more elements related to quality of life, productivity. So to the potential coverage is going to be present here. Innovation is fundamental. Financial education is a must, and I think that this sector has gone a long way in these financial education efforts. This was acknowledged last year. I'm sure you recall, Mr. Humberto, when we saw that this sector by far had more specific results in the area of financial education and promotion of the insurance culture, the channels and tools to commercialize these products, and the pillar on sustainability. We have made quite a progress there, how to consolidate an insurance system that will keep the best practices in terms of risk management, prudential requirements, and a comprehensive and consolidated supervision. If we want to dwell on each one of them, we're going to find the following. From the standpoint of technology, it is of paramount importance to understand that we need a strategy. Just technology for the sake of technology doesn't say anything. Technology is important. At the end of the day, it is a mean. We should have clarity, which is the strategy that we want to set up when incorporating our technology in our business development. And this happens not because of an industry evaluation or a country evaluation. Obviously, we have to consider it, but the strategy also means, what do I want to do as an entity? What is my strategy aiming at? I want to transform my business. I want to have a better environment. I want for the financial customer to have a better experience. I want to move to a world in which I incorporate more efficiency. So to think about technology by itself is not the proper solution. When we understand as supervisors and as an industry that technology is fundamental to have efficiencies and a better environment, we should better understand how this is leveraging a strategy. This becomes a means to obtain a specific outcome. There are many variables in that strategy. Each entity must decide, where do we want to be? I want to be in a place where I'll need to have a strategic alliance and I have a leverage in technological firms to the business, or should I go to an extreme in which I said, okay, they're great technological firms and I prefer for them to keep on absorbing the market, and they could even displace the supply of a traditional insurer. This strategy is necessary to be understood. So the risk-based supervision tells you, give me your business plan. Where are you moving to? How are you going to leverage this business in terms of technology, processes, human talent? With whom are you going to do this? How innovative is this going to be? And why is this necessary in your strategy? The superintendency is an industry-aligned definition and adoption of this strategy. Authorities, not only us, but the Ministry of Finance, we must move forward in the definition of clear objectives. These clear objectives should have a common element, and that is that we need to transform the industry. If we do not transform ourselves, if we do not think that our objective is to change what we do, most likely we're not going to have a winning strategy. As to promotion, protection, inclusion, even instability, we need to move to better understand how to meet the objectives, and we see how that becomes more a business opportunity. Management, digital insurance, and why not? This is the debate we've had. Mutual funds, we are open to understanding things from a different reality. If we do not move to understand a different reality, we are not going to have other alternatives. So you should find in the financial superintendency an ally of the industry in order to define and to adopt this strategy. The fintech group is at your disposal. Any initiative, whether it is an academic one or if it's just an idea, it is there to better understand what should be done, what cannot be done, which are the regulatory aspects you are facing, or if it's something that disrupts the balance between optimization of the industry and trust protection. So that's an important message we would like to convey when it comes to innovation technology, provided it is part of a good strategy. As to reliability, I think not only in the long term, but in the short term, we have the need to move and to better understand a different environment. I think that the presentations of this morning show what we are saying. We take as a base a study of Accenture of 2017. 33 consumers were surveyed in 18 countries, where we had Brazil and Chile. What is that consumers want? And I think this goes in line with what we're listening to. We know that there is a consumer that now finds value in the information. They find new assets, the traceability of my social networks, etc. It is my information, who could use it. Actually, financial supervisors are also thinking about the standards to be adopted in that area. We find financial consumers that are familiar with online commerce. You go to internet, you can get any product through those sales virtual platforms to have financial services through them. That should be a special condition in this environment. We need to move forward, and financial consumers have identified that they're willing for their experience to be automated. We are talking about personalized coaching. We are talking of personalized consultancy. We're talking about interviews. And actually, in the new context, it is necessary to understand this well, that there's room for new needs, because that's how it's going to be demanded by the financial consumer. The customization of products is going to be fundamental. I mean, now we have television, we can watch whatever we want, we can listen to the music we want. I mean, what do I want to ensure? What type of coverage I want to have? I'm not interested in a standard figure. I want to have protection only Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays when I drive my car. So this customization of product changes the construction on how do I share information, how do I reach a financial consumer. This financial consumer has a characteristic that is very special. Everything needs to be immediate. Now we do not have office hours. We are in a world in which the financial consumer is not given importance to the channel. The channel is not what's going to determine its experience environment as a consumer. It is more biased. I don't care. I just want to have the proper answer. I want a quick answer and of easy access. So from that perspective, the channels we are used to, the ones we have worked on in terms of supervision, also have a need to adjust to the reality. Hence, consumers are drastically modifying that behavior, and they need to identify themselves in the goods and services supply. Well, we need to move forward. We need to understand how the consumer can improve his quality of life through better transparency and also access and availability. This needs to be immediate. Obviously, in those products where that is possible, in those products where that is the added value, we cannot think that everything needs to become technology, smart contracts, or just to check, I accept. To continue working in order to strengthen the insurance culture. That's a market's need. We have a challenge as an industry, this insurance culture should not only be framed thinking that it's good to transfer the risk to someone, it's good to be covered. Obviously, it is, but in practical terms, we need to add more value to that financial consumer. When you offer someone a product, think about a standard simple product. People think, yeah, but I'm not going to use this product. I'm not going to get sick. I'm not going to die. So why am I spending the money? The likelihood of me dying is not that high, and we start having a debate to see if the only effect of an insurance product is the materialization of an accident. What happens if we start thinking about other experiences when I have no need to present a claim, a benefit that will make me feel important, that will make me feel served not only when I file the claim, but throughout the life of the product, consultancy and intermediation. We are always improving in that, who sells a service or a product, and we need to have clear responses. We need to have responses to financial consumers. Customers today are unsatisfied with this element. And for example, my insurance company is not answering, is not solving the problems in an issue that could be simple. Is it covered or not by the insurance? I mean, just a clear answer. The discussion is not if it takes me 30 days to pay for a claim. It's just to make sure that the aim is to satisfy consumers' expectations. Conduct or behaviors to sell products to those who really need it. It's not just selling for the sake of selling. It's not placing policies. The conduct-related topic plays an important role in the sale of a product, and they should satisfy the needs of the consumer and the industry. And as to product access, we have two messages here, and that insurance culture should be promoted when it comes to SOAT. And the other one is the pension fund insurance, that as superintendents, we believe that these are our priority topics in the area of supervision. They require much attention, and they require important action. So allow me to dwell on each one of them. The mandatory insurance for accidents, car accidents, we see what it creates and the possibility of feeling better as a country with respect to this environment. But actually, the constraint of the supply is not the best practice. It's not necessary for us to think that the insurer will say, no, I do not sell, or I do not want to create a supply of a specific product in a region or in a specific segment. We as an industry need to move forward in a very important answer. We are building collective benefit. We are building benefit as a country. What Colombians expect the least is to be indifferent to that situation. Hence, mandatory insurance for car accidents and to limit the supply is not the best practice. And this has some natural conditions. We have to move forward in different work fronts, and I want to put them on the table with the clarity required by our responsibility. First, we want to assess the possibility of national coverage from the supply perspective. Oh, this was not part of our plan. Something happened. Well, I think that the messages are still very important under that perspective, to continue working and to think how can we move to produce a coverage from the national perspective. Could it be possible that at the superintendency we will encourage them to have channels that no matter where the product is requested, I mean, as the SOAT, they can do it from anywhere, so there are virtual platforms offering this product. But we are also aware, and we have found that there are internet addresses or areas of the country where the product is not sold. So to move ourselves in that possibility is not a reasonable possibility. I mean, and At the superintendency, we have to see how can we develop a supervision strategy that will help us understand what's behind this. As a company, I can decide to go to this sector or not. But there is a SWOT structure that we must go over it, to see how this compensation system that we have is being followed up. It's good to think that this cross-compensation scheme needs to be redimensioned regarding a new vehicle park and also an increase in coverages and risk distribution. So, Mr. Jorge Humberto, this initiative counts on our support, and please remember that we have a responsibility when specifically defining how do we see this compensation scheme. As to SOAT, for us, digitalization is very important. We support this perspective to tackle fraud, but we are willing to put all the elements on the table regarding the fee. I think that for the superintendency, from the technical perspective, it's very complex to have a debate if the tariff is sufficient or not. Or if we just say that the fraud has skyrocketed. I want to make a public invitation for us to technically analyze around the table if there is sufficiency or not. But that has to go through many elements. We need to make sure that the information we are sharing is common to everyone. The superintendency has a database. Fasecolda has another database to start having a debate. If your database is good and mine is not, that doesn't help. It's a responsibility on how we produce the necessary information to make the necessary comparisons. And we also analyze the expenses, and it is necessary to feel at ease with that and to have that commitment to put on the table which are the factors that affect in that.
To think of a 23% as an expense factor, well, that doesn't allow us to do a good review in a very good way, to do a more technical review. So, Jorge Humberto, we're willing to look over the efficiency of the rate. But if we're going to do it, I want to invite you to do it, as has been customary, to doing an integrated revision of the topic. It's not just fraud, the rate for the rate, but we are willing to evaluate all the considerations. If we want to include risk factors of the drivers, well, that's welcome. I hope we can have all the information to see how can I establish the differences between one driver and the other. But I think the important thing in this discussion is that we cannot just rest on the sufficiency of the rate, but also to work on the optimization of the processes and of optimizing the information behind this. So for SWOT, we have a lot of work ahead of us. I was telling Mr. Jorge Humberto that of the three topics that where we are prioritizing our work, SOAT is one of which we will hope to generate results very quickly. We're hoping by the end of this year to have very concrete results and recommendations as to what should happen in terms of the SOAT. So we will continue working on this. The second component that demands attention is the traditional insurance. Yes, we need to advance in, we generate a very important responsibility. What's at stake here is much more than we are individually thinking of, and it's a provisional insurance, a pension insurance. It needs to be looked at. Looking at this chart, or at this slide, I think we are at a stage where the stage of accumulation starts losing velocity. This stage tends to become flatter, and we have to need to prepare in understanding that our pensions are going to have requirements that are different because the number of requests for pensions are going to increase. Look at the right-hand side of the slide. Well, the people are focusing more on the age where there is greater demand for requests for pensions. pension payments. And the big question there is, what are we going to do? How, from the insurance point of view, and the regulator and the supervisor decide to advance on this scheme? It is a very big issue. It is of a very large amount, but it does requires of an awareness, is being sensitive about this, and to be prepared how to address this. The offer of pension in insurance and annuities, that's already decided, coverage, etc. But we need to move into specific solutions. We need to dwell into the core issue of what it is that we want to do, if we are truly aware that our role goes beyond merely thinking that a decree will help me, or I think there's more important things to do here. There are viable alternatives. We need to find them. I think that here, definitely, with the will, you can't. The superintendency and the Ministry of Finances are willing, but we all need to contribute. And I think there's a very big challenge to how the insurance companies can pull the best or extract the best to manage the risks. Because if we don't have that important component from the insurance sector, then how can we move into finding a solution that is feasible and pertinent? Of course, we need to continue expanding our annuities market, but certain risks of difficult insurance remain. This bar chart shows basically that this market, the annuities market, needs to be consolidated, or will be consolidated, with a real sustainable alternative as that accumulation of the individual savings. But we need to continue having important discussions. I think that CISCOP is going to help us very much, and I understand the trade association's position in how to generate auctions with a symmetrical offer, how to generate an environment where we think not only of the individual perspective as companies, but also in the existing responsibility and what the country expects from us in developing this product. This is also a scheme on which we're working with the Ministry of Finance. The decrees are in the agenda. We continue thinking that it makes no sense to continue delaying this discussion. So the comment that a new government is going to come into office and we'll wait there, no, we need to continue as of now to continue doing it so that we can make responsible progress on this consolidation. Regarding and including insurance sector, there's much to do. The number of insureds has increased. Access to rural areas, not as much as we would like. I think there's a very good space for improvement, for growth there. In fact, if we compared insured risks valid in rural areas, we've seen a reduction between 2015 and 2016. We need to move to a scenario where there is greater depth. We also need to understand how the use of innovative channels is going to drive or boost the way how we move. Also, the use of internet and mobile devices. But definitely, I think that the space we have and the capacity of impact that we have as an industry in this sector is truly important. We can further boost this financial inclusion of the insurance sector within a scheme that we have considered as a long-term rural development. That's where we will surely have very important expectations. We can dynamize sectors that traditionally have not been attended to. The rural sector, I think it's a financial inclusion bet in the medium term for the superintendency. We need to continue betting, thinking about how to move to generate an expansive offer. How do we promote the improvement of the quality of life of the people and sustainable rural development? A comprehensive offer of products is also part of this strategy. To think only about insurance individually, or savings individually, or loans individually, We have attempted to first loans, then transactions, then payments, then savings, but I believe definitely the only possible alternative is an integration thereof. How do I add savings? How do I add loan? But also how do I generate coverage for a long-term rural development? The growing interest of foreign industry in this sector is amazing. You know how we've approved this Mexican partnership that will surely have a very interesting dynamics when further understanding agricultural insurance and parametric insurance. And here's another important aspect, which is sustainability. We have made considerable progress, I think. If we could compare 5 or 6 years, the sustainability pillar made in prudent terms where we stood and where we are now, well, there's no denying the progress. The best practices, the best standards in regulatory terms today position Colombia as one of the countries with greatest investment potential in this industry. The reserves, recent resolutions that are going to be implemented, and the industry has adapted very well to this scheme. We acknowledge it's cost us. We see how the compliance of the rules also becomes an opportunity for business development. Our next step on this prudent matter is the reserve, the insufficient reserve of assets. We've already talked about this. We've had a good feedback from the industry that will lead us to safe port. We have also worked on other standards, certification of sufficiency of the responsible actuary and others. But beyond the work that we have done, our fundamental message is, where does the superintendency want to move to in terms of better practices and standards? Supervision has been accompanying this process. Supervision continues in how we complement and generate value in the compliance of these regulatory and prudent standards. So what comes next? We have a very large, very strong plan to continue working from supervision and regulation. We believe that's where we need to focus our efforts to start generating, hand in hand with industry, some best practices so that the issuance of this product is done very well, very technical, very much associated to what we expect is received by the insurance companies. And also thinking about this long-term structure, what follows? The discussion about Solvency II that we had some years ago or not, I think the matter today is more mature in understanding what it is that we want to do, what it is from the perspective of capital migration that we have today to one that is risk-based, be it called Solvencia II or Solvencia II or Solvencia Colombia, whatever you want to call it. We want to announce that we are preparing a study that allows us to understand how far we are in converging to Solvencia II on certain basic pillars. First, the ORSA, or assessing the sufficiency of the capital, the quantitative impact of the model, the Pillar 1 standard, diversifying and correlating risks to understand if the capital is sufficient in terms of those risks, the quality of the computable capital, what it is and how it should be, and how to introduce stress tests in these analysis of capital allocation. So that's where we want to move to, that's where we want to advance. We've done it step by step. Our future lies there in those decisions for migrating to risk-based capital. The financial conglomerates law plays a fundamental role. And here we're not talking about pensions and the convergence from Solvencia I to Solvencia II, but also this conglomerates law generates a new environment of operation of our system. Supervision also needs to move to new standards based on this supervisory scheme. It is important to understand that given the new structure of the financial system where the holdings are going to be overseen, we will see that either we have very strong branches in each of the sector, we have a very robust insurance sector, and the interaction of the risk has to be understood very well. How we are going to do that risk impact assessment and its impact on the conglomerate, and we need to have different types of businesses and how to differentiate in this scheme. So very quickly, this presentation will be available to you. We are open to continue working with the industry. We are open to continue supporting convergence to whatever we decide is the future of our country, hand in hand with the insurance companies. Thank you very much for listening.